fix it. No, I don't think that's the right direction. It's not. I don't think we should put more money into it to try to see how we can improve the system going forward. Especially knowing that number one, the trend is actually to move towards a P25 system anyway. That's becoming more evident. You're seeing funding sources favoring P25 systems. I don't think any of them would even pay for a regular analog radio anymore if you try to apply for one. And what that does is, on the vendor level, on the manufacturer's level, that influences what they actually try to manufacture going forward. You know, so you're probably, it's fair to say that you're probably going to see some of these analog radios begin to disappear, only because funding sources are not favoring analog radios anymore. You're kind of seeing a trend towards the digital P25 system. You know, Chris also kind of mentioned that maybe another step is to see if we can try to simulcast all our towers. What that means is every time you key up your radio, all the towers will light up and transmit from there. And that's good. The only problem is it's very limited. If you, I don't know if any of you remember back in 2006, how many channels do you actually operate out of? And then compare that to today. How many channels do you actually use? You've actually increased the number of channels. I can't say how many channels were actually added, but there was an addition of a few channels that were added into the system. The point is that, you know, within the 10-year span right there, you've actually experienced some growth. Not only that, but I could imagine that, you know, going down the road, you're probably going to see some departments even grow. Probably an increased number of radios. And as Chris had mentioned, the system that we have today is kind of maxed out. Okay, even if we do put money into a simulcast system, it's not going to allow you to take more radios in. We're already right at that threshold. It's not really ideal. So that kind of leaves us with two options. And one example that Chris cited was that the P25 system that they're currently putting up in Medina County, and in partnership with Parma, the city of Parma. That's just one example. I mean, there's a number of different systems similar to that. Summit County also has a similar system, and I think they kind of work in conjunction with Stark County. And I did talk with them about that. They are willing to, you know, to partner with us if we do want to join in with them. But, you know, something to consider, though, with that kind of system is any of those. If you're considering any of those shared systems, there is a cost associated with any one of them. Like, for example, when I spoke with Mike Zabel from Summit County about their radio system, he told me that it's roughly about $13 per radio. Okay, that's how much it costs for them to participate. Medina County, we don't know how much it's going to cost you. It's not even up right now. But I'm pretty sure because of all the backhaul costs, you know, Chris had mentioned something about a core. There's a core sitting in Parma right now that's going to, you know, serve all the agencies that will use that radio system. There is a cost associated with using even the Medina system. So I think it's fair to say that right now, at this point, we have to accept that. This is something that's really going to be on our table, is a cost. And I know the big question. I know every single one of you here are probably asking that question. How much is it going to cost, and who's going to pay for it? Okay, those are the big looming questions that are probably here. You know, first of all, I'm going to say this, okay? Just if you want to do a quick math, you can quickly do this. How many radios do you have in your station? And let's say if we're going to consider, let's say, a mark system, multiply that by $20 per radio per month. Okay, that's your quick math right there. All right, how many radios do you have? Multiplied by $2,000 for a cost of each radio. That's how much each radio is going to cost. You put that together, that's probably how much each one of your departments are. It's going to cost each one of your departments to outfit yourself with the Marks radio and use it for the first month. And then, of course, you start figuring in, you know, your yearly cost from there. Multiply that by 12, and so on and so forth. Easy to do the math. That's really the cost of that. But the question is, what are we going to do to try to offset that? Okay, and I think what you're going to find out, though, is that there are different programs and grant programs out there today that can actually help us make this into a reality. But this is the key, though. The key is actually getting everybody to work together and be a unified type effort in making this happen. This is what I mean by that, okay? Individually, if you guys try to apply for your own grant, you're only going to get X amount of dollars. There's a couple of things that kind of play into that. Number one, if you're a department that needs maybe, let's say, about 30 radios, that's all you're going to buy. 30 radios, you ask Motorola or Kenwood or whoever to go give you a quote for 30 radios, that's how much you're going to pay. Could you imagine if we're actually sending a RFI out for 1,300 radios countywide? What kind of impact would that do? How sharp is that pencil going to get? Right? That's really what we're trying to do here by what I'm talking about in making this into a unified effort. And that's just one example. And I think you can only imagine, you know, if we actually go across this and approach this in a unified manner, going into our funding sources, the grant folks that we apply with. If we actually go in with one single big application showing that, yeah, this is a countywide effort right here, and here's our application for a grant, how much of an impact would that actually make with those decision makers, you know, who actually give us the grants for this? So, you know, in short, what we're trying to do is we're going to try to identify these grant programs, these different funding sources, and see how we can pull them together, see how we can use that to our best advantage, and see what's left over, and that's what we have to worry about. Chris kind of put up a figure there for, let's for example, look at the MARC system. That's about 4.8 million, I think, is what, you know, his estimated rollout is for a MARC system. That includes buying equipment. You're talking about base station radios. You're talking about monthly fees. You know, the minute you look at a 4.8 and you apply some of these funding sources and what you can actually do to offset that 4.8, maybe it's not going to be that bad of a picture in the end. Maybe it's not even 4.8 anymore. Maybe it's all gone. I don't know. But the point is that, you know, once we actually identify, put together some kind of a committee or a team to be able to march us forward with this thing, then we can actually see what the grand picture is, what the real picture is as far as the cost of the system is, and we can hopefully realize that, well, maybe it's affordable than we think. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to invite Marshal Larry Flowers.